Welcome, everybody. This is Books Cafe. I'm your host, Scott Patton, and we have a very, very exciting guest today. She's got a ton of books that she's created, that she's written, and she's going to be sharing with us a lot of amazing information. But this is Books Cafe, presented by free-ebooks.net, and I'm just going to bring up. There we go. Bring it up, show you. You can download 5 free ebooks a month. And the whole purpose that we have in doing this is to support our authors. One of the most difficult things to do in today's day and age is, unless you've got a strong following, is get publishing houses to publish your book. So one of the things that we love doing is taking brand new authors, even established authors, who've got a book that they can offer to our audience for free. We've got over 5 million members, and use that to leverage yourself into creating a community. Now, this is just one step of your author book marketing program, but we think it's a really important one. So if you're not already a member, head over to free-ebooks.net, join us, and help support up-and-coming authors. And with that, today's guest is a best-selling author and business strategist. Her name is Dr. Terri. Her name is Dr. Terri Levine. Terri Levine. Sorry. I just talked to her about how to say it properly, and I should have been kept quiet. She helps small business owners struggling to get leads to get a conveyor belt of qualified prospects and to grow their business 200% guaranteed. So with that, welcome to the show, Terri. Oh,
there I am. Thanks, Scott.
There you are.
I'm here. Good to be with you. And you said my name fine. It's all good.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got started. Like, what got you into being, you're known as the Heart-repreneur, which I just love, because so often we have this cold, mean vision of business. And I think, part of your mission to bring the heart back into it is so important.
It really is. Like, to me, business became very transactional over the last 20 years or so, where people were just looking to bring somebody into their world to sell them a product or service and really didn't take care of them. And so I decided to literally disrupt the way business is done with our Heart-repreneur methodology that not only brings you a conveyor belt of qualified prospects, it allows you to share your products and services with people in a relationship-minded way, whether it's your prospects, your clients, your patients, your customers, or it's even how you treat your employees and your vendors. It's a whole Heart-repreneur philosophy.
Awesome. So how did you get into writing? Because you've written, I think you said, over 50 books. I mean, that's an awful lot. Most of us, I have this, and it's empty, but I bought it because one of my friends convinced me that I needed to write about my travels. And so I now have taken at least the first step. I have a book to write it in, but I haven't written anything yet. So how did you get started? And do you have any advice for people like me that have a book, or their friends have all said, you've done this amazing thing and you need to write about it?
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So when I was 7 years old, I lived in New York, and there was a contest that the local paper was having. And it said to write a letter to Santa Claus. So it sounded fun. I wrote a letter to Santa Claus, and in the state of New York, I won this contest. There were millions of entries. And I mean, my parents were shocked. I was shocked. And my teacher at the time said, "You're a natural. You need to keep writing." And she gave me a journal. And so from the age of 7 all the way on up, many decades, I just started writing. And I realized it was a passion of mine. It helps me clear my mind, get thoughts out of my head. When I was in 12th grade, I wrote an article, and that was published in a newspaper. And then I realized that writing was just a natural skill. So I've been writing books for about 25, 26 years. Let me tell folks how I recommend you get to be a writer, okay? decide on something that you really have a passion to share. It's just like you don't ever want to leave this planet without sharing it. It could be anything. And then every day, literally in a journal, in a notebook, just write 4 pages. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be a work of art. You just need to start with a framework. We're building a house and we're starting with the basics, the skeleton of the house. We're designing it. That's all. And literally that is all. And the last tip I want to give, Scott, is write by hand. Don't keyboard. When you keyboard, it only engages one hemisphere of the brain. When you write, you engage both hemispheres and you're more creative. So every day, just set aside a few minutes. Write 4 pages. Don't edit it. Don't cross anything out. Don't rewrite it. That will start you on your book journey.
That is brilliant, Terri, because one of my friends, he's actually a documentary filmmaker in Europe, and he's been watching me for the last 3 years. I've been traveling around the world as like the senior nomad, and he said, "You got to write about your experiences and everything else." And I heard that as write about your travels. And everybody has written about the Eiffel Tower, and everybody's written about the pyramids. And I thought, I have nothing to add to that, or I have no passion to add to that, maybe a better way of putting it. But as I was listening to you, I do have things that I would love to get out, and to get them out in the context of travel and different countries in the world and cultures would be really, really exciting. So you just actually, and then 4 pages, you need a smaller book. but that's certainly doable. I can not watch The Simpsons or not watch the news and write that instead, right? Yeah. And so thank you very much for that, because you made a difference in one person's life just already in the show. So I want to. What I'd love to do now is show everybody your Amazon page. And maybe what we could do is talk about a couple of the books and just sort of give a kind of a taste of them. And then I know you've got a new book coming out, so I'd love to talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk. And then I want to for sure talk a lot more about heart entrepreneurship. So if that's all right with you, yeah. I'll bring it up right now. There we go. So here's your Amazon page. We've got turbocharged, magnetizing, about to break. I assume they're all like your favorite children, but do you have one that sort of stands out in your mind?
So I have 2.
Okay, great.
Let's start with Turbocharge, which is the first book that appears there. I strongly recommend this for anyone who is an entrepreneur, who works in business, who is an aspiring business owner. And what I did here is I dissected my exact process that I've used with over 6,000 client family members to create 6, 7, and a few even 8-figure businesses. And it's laid out in a format where you can follow the actions, and it's been very, very well received. So I highly recommend Turbocharge. And then the other one is totally different. It's called About to Break, and the Path to True Forgiveness. And I want to explain that just a little bit. This is a very different book for me, unlike any of the other books I've ever written. This book is actually an autobiography, as well as giving an exact path that I used and I've shared with over 200 people that truly helped me forgive and have more self-love, more joy, and more peace in my life. It is a process. It made my life completely different. And I have 200 other people I took through the process who basically said, Terri, this has to be a book. So About to Break, The Path to True Forgiveness holds a very special place in my heart and has been really, really well received. Scott, you're muted.
Wonderful. I keep forgetting to unmute myself. I know what I'm going to be doing once we're done. I've got 2 new books on my reading list. And one of the nice things about, I prefer having like a physical book in my hand, but when I'm traveling, I'm in Medellin, Colombia right now. I love having my iPad because I can carry my library with me.
Me too.
So you're coming out with a new book, And I understand you're in the process of signing everything with the publisher. This is all absolutely top secret, so everybody listening, don't tell anybody. And we're going to have to have you come back when the book is about to launch, so we can tell everybody about like part 2. And it's called The Conversion Equation. So can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So when the pandemic first started, we had over 600 businesses contact us at Heart-repreneur saying, help us, our business is struggling, or we need to go virtual, or we have to pivot. And so I said, we can't take on 600 more businesses, and we want to help everyone. So I asked myself, what could I do? And I realized that the proven formula that I've used to create multi-million-dollar businesses for myself and help my client family members with could be written down. It's formulaic. It works in every business. It's a proprietary system and no one uses it. So I literally wrote the book. I did it in less than 3 weeks because I knew I had to help as many people as possible. And then we crowdfunded the book. I've never done that before. We used a site called Publishizer. Never done that before. And in 4 weeks, we pre-sold 600 copies of the book. So now I'm in negotiations. I have 4 different traditional publishers that I'm chatting with. I'm probably going to sign a contract with an advance in the next couple of weeks, and then hopefully get that book launched as quickly as possible so we can help as many people. And what I love about this book is I reveal the whole formula. I just burn the curtain and go, here, do this. It's something any business can do. It's a quick action. Do this. Every single one is simple, easy, effortless, and I've laid it all out. And after I teach in the book, I give you case studies. So you can look at it and go, oh, there's a massage therapist, that's me, or there's a coach, that's me, or there's an author, that's me. And there's lots and lots of true case studies so you can learn from my client family members.
I'm really excited about reading that book, actually. That sounds absolutely amazing. So a lot of the people that tune in to Books Cafe are just starting out, and you gave some great tips. Do you have, obviously you go to a publishing house, do you have any opinions on the publishing house versus self-publishing?
That's a great question. I've only self-published 1 book. And self-publishing, these days, it's easy, it's effortless. You can use Amazon Create Space and publish under your own name. I could be Luh-VEEN Publishing or Heart-repreneur Press, whatever. So it gets your book up there quickly. It allows you to set the price for your book. It allows you to give away books. And it certainly allows you to bring the book to market very, very quickly. So all of those are pluses. The not quite plus is if you want to enhance your credibility and really use a book to enhance your credibility, when you have gone with even a small press traditional publisher and the imprint isn't your imprint, that does impress people, okay? And self-published books are still not that easy to get distribution for. So if you want to be in a bookstore, if you want to be in catalogs, if you want to do book signings and you want to get paid a lot of money as a speaker, self-published books aren't where it's at in my experience, and I'll tell you why. I have a client, I won't say who, but she put a book on Amazon, and this is not a joke. It's completely blank inside. It's everything that people know about a particular topic. And then the book is blank to prove that people don't know anything. Now, she did sell 1 million copies of that book. 1 million. It's a coffee table book. So she made a lot of money. She sold it for a dollar. Okay, a lot of money. However, there's a lot of, pardon my word here, crap on Amazon because anyone can put things on Create Space. So I think there's some advantages to being self-published. It's certainly a much quicker cycle. And then in this case, like, I can't give away free books, right? I can't. Publishers don't allow that. I can't give away my books in an e-format. I just can't. So it gives you a lot more freedom. So there's pros and cons. Does that make sense?
Yep. So do you have any advice for anyone that wants to approach a publishing house?
Yeah, a couple things. Don't go through an agent. It's going to make the process even longer. What I recommend that you first do is you need to build a large platform. The first thing that a publisher looks for, and I've had publishing houses for 20 years, you have to have a huge following because they need to know that you're going to be able to sell books. If you can't sell books, they're not interested. The publishing houses don't really market your books. They need you to market. So the first thing I would work on is establishing a very large social media presence. I remember many, many years ago, I was negotiating with a publisher who instantly went to my Facebook and said, oh, 25,000 followers. Okay. And then we started a conversation. They told me if I didn't have a large following, it was out. They wanted to know how many people are my email list. I'm like 55,000. They had a conversation with me. So focus first, if you really want to go through a publishing house, on building a community of people, a loyal following. So in my example of crowdfunding conversion equation, in 4 weeks, I pre-sold 600 books. Now, most authors don't sell more than 100 to 200 books ever, just so you know. Okay, I'm not talking Stephen King, I'm talking us. So going to a publishing house going, I already have 600 sold. They know that I have a marketing engine. They know that I have reach. And that's what they're going to look for from you.
That's actually really brilliant, using the crowdsourcing to create the spark for the fire to make the bonfire, I guess.
Exactly.
Right. We have a couple of people that just popped in and said hi. Hey, John. Hey, Stan is in Kenya. So awesome. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We are live right now. And if you have any questions for Terri, put them in the comments. I get to see them, and I'll vet them before I bring them on and ask her to make sure. And it would be awesome to hear questions from you. So Terri, let's talk a little bit about Heart-repreneur. I'm just going to bring your website up. And who can you describe your perfect prospect? Like, who do you really love helping?
Thank you for that question. So Heart-repreneur is designed for anyone who has a service-based business. So not a widget, not like, oh, I have a pen, but something that is a service that actually does something in the world that is of service, of value. Chiropractor, massage therapist, speaker, trainer, author, coach, consultant, naturopath, a service. And what we do is we literally install a system that brings you a conveyor belt of qualified prospects, allows you to make a lot more money, and gives you time freedom, which is very important. And we actually guarantee a 200% ROI. If we fail, we give you all your money back. Plus, I personally would write you a check for $5,000. Now, we've had over 6,000 client family members in almost 26 years. We've never had anyone where we refunded money. We had one person who said it didn't work, and she didn't come to any of the sessions. She didn't implement. So no, it won't work if you're not willing to implement. But if you're ready and you're really serious and you're like, I want a conveyor belt of qualified prospects, we're really good at that.
Awesome. So what are a couple popular misconceptions about your services that people have and the results?
Excellent question. So one thing is that people want magic bullets. They're like, oh, okay, just, do this for me. And it doesn't happen that way. It does take a little bit of time and energy to get the engine started. So you don't have to put a lot of money into marketing. What we teach is all no and low cost marketing. So once you invest with us, you don't have to have any other expenditures. However, you have to give things a little bit of time. If you don't have an audience, you're not going to go have 30 prospects tomorrow. So I like to be honest with people. You have to put some time in. The second thing, and the biggest thing that I see, is many people hide behind their computers. And I really mean that. They're constantly creating tons of content, tons of things. They're on social media every 5 minutes. Those are time drainers. That does not give you time freedom. So be willing to follow the exact actions. They're easy, effortless, joyful, and fun that actually make a difference and let you make connections with people heart to heart by doing the things in the conversion equation, which is a 4-step formula of interrupt, engage, educate, and offer in that sequence. And of course, the book goes into the exact process.
Cool. So you had mentioned chiropractors, so I'm just going to use them as the example. So if I'm a chiropractor and I've just graduated, I've just started to open up my office, this is or I'm a chiropractor who's been practicing for 20 years. Either extreme will work with the Heart-repreneur system.
Yeah, so it definitely works for a startup, and I'm always very transparent. It takes a little bit longer for a startup. You typically don't have a large following of people, right? So
Right.
we grow that, and it takes a little bit of time. If you're a more established business, it goes a lot faster. Just to give an example, I'll give you two. I have a pretty new client named Jacqueline. She's been with me for about 6 weeks. She started from zero. She had a business concept. And she, in 6 weeks, earned about $68,000. Okay, so that's a pretty good startup. Let me give you a second one. I have another client, William. He already had an established business. He was doing about $10,000 a month, and he's been with me. This is his 3rd month. And last month, he had his first $100,000 month. That's from $10,000 to $100,000. I can't guarantee that in everyone's business. I can tell you that it is a formula, and it does work when you apply it, and I teach it to you.
Since we call this show Books Cafe, I guess I shouldn't have said chiropractors, and I should have said authors. So I'm assuming that it applies equally for authors. And in fact, if you're an author, you should be getting over to Heart-repreneur, consuming everything you can there, and getting a hold of Terri to help you with your books.
So yes, I've helped over 1,000 authors. Many of them I've helped to be best-selling authors, not just on Amazon, but on other platforms. I've also helped people get publishing deals, agents. I'm pretty, after writing this many books, I'm very familiar with the entire book marketing, etc. So if someone has that as a desire, I love to help authors, and my system works for authors. I have a lot of blogs on it. I have a webinar. I'm happy to just share and create value, Scott.
And that's evident today, Terri. Thank you very much. So it seems like on one hand, if you want to be successful, get a hold of Terri. On the other hand, many people won't. And why do you think that might be, Terri?
I think sometimes people limit themselves. It's their self-talk. It's their self-belief. This won't work for me. I'm not good enough. I'm sure it's worked for other people. This doesn't sound true. That sounds like a lot of marketing language. No, it's not going to happen. And so they stop themselves. And the question I always ask people is, how long are you going to be stuck? And when are you ready to become unstoppable? And that's really a decision that you have to make, whether you decide to have me help you or have somebody else help you. And the last thing I'll say is, in my experience, the go it alone mentality, it doesn't create 6, 7, or certainly 8-figure business owners. I personally have invested over $1 million in mentors, coaches, and consultants, which is why my first book became a bestseller instantaneously, and I got a publishing house, which is why one of my next books was picked up by Wiley, which is why I typically get paid $25,000 to speak on stages. I didn't do this by myself. I had mentors, coaches, and advisors who were running faster than me, lift me up, take me by the hand, nurture me, and take me under their wing. So if you're open-minded and you're like, I'm not going to do this alone, I'm going to learn from somebody so I can earn, that's what you need to do next.
I totally agree. In my previous life, before I reincarnated into this, I was a grocery store manager, and I had 300 employees in my last store. So when I left after 20 years of doing that, I was basically traumatized, and I did not want to talk to anybody. I did not want any partners, employees, nothing. And it took me 10 or 15 years to actually get over that. And you're absolutely right. It was a struggle. I didn't, because it not only did I not want anyone below me, I didn't want anyone beside me or above me, which meant no mentors, no coaches, no nothing, learn it all by myself, which was the absolute hardest way to learn anything in the world. And now it's changed, and I have an organization that's growing, and I have mentors that help me and coaches, and it's just absolutely incredible the difference that it makes. And so I fully recommend to everybody listening, particularly if you're an author, because I'm not sure that there's anything more lonely for an extrovert than to be an author. If you're an introvert, it's the best life in the world, right? You go up in the mountain, you find a little wood cabin, you put some logs on, you get your typewriter out and or your pen and paper, and away you go. But for most of us, it's very, very lonely. And to go and do it and think that you can know, particularly today, right? Like, what do you do on Facebook? Well, that's just different than what you do on Twitter, and that's different than what you do on YouTube. And then there's some new thing called TikTok. Like, what's that? Should I be paying attention to it? And next week it'll be a talk tick. I mean, it just keeps adding and changing, right? And
Can
if you don't,
invite the audience to something free that will give them more community and some of my free help?
absolutely.
Okay, so I run a Facebook group. It's called Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine. Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine. We've about 5,100 members in that community. I go in there every week and I do some live trainings for you. In the document file section, when you get in, are all kinds of free resources. And I'm in there every day answering questions and helping. And our community does business together. So if you need help with a book, if you want to promote your book, there's all kinds of opportunities for networking. So it's a Facebook group, again, called Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine. And I would certainly embrace anyone who is listening and wants to be a part of the community.
I think I am a part of the community. I think I joined it a few years ago.
You did.
So I'm going to have to jump in there because it doesn't show up on my feed.
Get more active.
Get more active. That's right. And I think that's really a big lesson for, and I'm talking now mainly to the authors, right? Like, you spend your time writing and everything else, but you need to be active in your communities. So if you're a science fiction writer, there are tons of science fiction forums and Facebook groups. Facebook could probably be the easiest. Or if you're, a nonfiction writer, there's every topic under the world. There are groups, and there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people in those groups. And but if you come from a servant's heart, it just makes such a huge difference, right? You don't go into the groups trying to sell your book, but you go in trying to solve problems and discuss things and everything else. And when you do that, it's kind of like when you go to the coffee shop and you sit down you meet somebody that you don't know there, and you're talking about whatever you're talking about, you come away clearer in your mind. And when you're in groups that are like-minded in terms of we're all science fiction writers or we're all nonfiction, whatever the topic is, writers, then it really can help clarify everything. And I think that's really important.
I think it is too. And being a part of a community with like-minded people, in my experience, great, we'll welcome you in the community, really makes a difference. So when people join the community, we say, tell us about yourself. If you have a book, tell us about your book. If you're working on a project, or if you need particular help. So it's a whole network of people helping and supporting each other. And I find that to be a way that people can learn and grow faster and network. And if you want to build your own community, be part of somebody else's community where you get noticed and recognized. And then people will also start to follow you. That's a little tip on how to build community of your own.
And if I may add, please do not spam.
Thank you for saying that.
Please do not spam.
Yeah.
In other words, I got a group. It's called Heart-repreneurisms.
Yeah.
And my name is Terri something else, but really close. And then don't do that, please. But you're absolutely right. When you contribute, people go, wow, like, who is this person? And if you're all on Facebook, they go look at your profile. And I hate to say it, but many people have really bad profiles in that in their about me, they don't say anything. And
Sure.
Even if you just said, I have a Facebook group about science fiction. If you want to join me, join me.
Yep.
And you'll be shocked at how many people will be friending you and joining your group.
So I tell people that if you want to model my profile, my business profile on Facebook, it's Heart-repreneur Terri Levine, facebook.com/Heart-repreneur Terri Levine. Go look at my about section. Feel free to model it. You'll see I have a blue check mark on Facebook, which means they verified my account. So the way that you get that is by having a good about me section. And that's also why I have, I don't know, 24, 25,000 followers on Facebook. So I'm basically saying you don't make stuff up, don't claim the same awards or the same titles of books, but model, use mine as a template because it is very effective. So I recommend that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being so giving, Terri. I really appreciate it. One of the things about being live is we tend to get interrupted.
Yes.
But I do want to take a second and acknowledge the people that have left comments because I know them all. Awesome. Dorbez and I met, I believe, in Morocco, and he was traveling 3 years ago, and he was traveling down to whatever the area is below Morocco. I think it's called Western Sahara, but it's Morocco and the country below that are kind of like arguing about who actually owns it. So it was really kind of an exciting, when I was hearing about it, I thought, wow, like I wouldn't do that. But he's 40 years younger than me. And he got down and he got through it and he got to other countries in Western Africa. And Dorbez, I don't know where you are. So if you're still listening, like, tell us, where are you?
I'd love to.
Stan, I met when I was in, for coffee, actually, when I was in Mombasa, Kenya, about 3 years ago. And so he's my number one African fan because whenever I go live, almost always he comes and says hi. And then John Smiley is a good old friend of mine. He's in Louisiana. I hope the hurricane missed you, John, and everything is well. And John has a really heartwarming story that I just love, Terri, and I'd love to share it with you because I think you would really appreciate it. He's in Louisiana, he's in New Orleans, and he gets a divorce. And his wife leaves and she moves up to Portland, Oregon. And I may not have the story 100% correct, but I have enough of it. And there were certain things that she wanted to take. And these were things that his family gave them on their wedding day. And of course, he let her have those things, but they were all really like mad. Like, why are you taking this? Like, we gave it to you, but when you're breaking up, you should have left it, blah, 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 blah. So fast forward a few years and the big hurricane hits, wipes everything out. Poor John, they heard about hurricanes over and over again. So he takes his laptop and a change of clothes and goes to wherever the shelter is and loses every single thing he has in the world, except his little bag and his laptop. So fast forward another number of years. Right after that, a friend of his said, listen, you have no reason to stay in New Orleans. I have a job. I need you to work for me in Seattle. So he moves up to Seattle, lives life goes on. And out of the blue, after a few years, his ex-wife calls him up and says, John, I got a bunch of stuff from when we were married and they're in the garage and I'm not using them and I don't really need them. If you like them, come on down and get them, right? Yeah. So the only thing he has in his life from before the hurricane is stuff that he didn't know his wife was saving for him.
Wow. I have goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that story. That is miraculous. I'd love to know more, John. That's fantastic. I'd love to meet all of you. I hope you do join the community at Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine. I'd love to know more of all your stories.
Yes. So do that. I'm gonna message PM John if he's not on here. I think if he was on here, he'd have commented and tell him listen to the end of the show and then go to the group.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Terri, we've come to the end of our time. Thank you for being so generous with both your information and your time. As we're about to leave, I would love to know, I actually usually ask people, what's your next project? But we've already talked about that. So do you have one last tip or piece of advice, and specifically for authors who are just starting out?
Yeah, I say this all the time to authors who are starting out. Good enough is good enough. Many people keep rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Let me tell you, if I kept editing and rewriting my books, they'd never get out there. So if you have something to share, just write. It does not have to be perfect. I have read many books by best-selling authors that I won't mention their names that have been on the New York Times bestseller book list, and they're not exactly perfect. We don't need perfect. We need your message. Get her done.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, everybody. This has been Books Cafe presented by free-ebooks.net. Look forward to having you join us next time. Bye for now.